Welcome to our channel. Thank you so much for watching. Today we're going to answer some of your questions. If you can think of any more questions, just put them in the comments below and we'll get to them. I like these. I like these interviews. I think people want to know, Whit.
I don't think so.
Why did you marry a girl in a wheelchair? What?
Nobody asked that question, so
They all have it on their
they've
mind.
got to ask it for me to answer it.
Ask it so I can tell you. So he can tell you. Let's have question Q&A for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell notification so you can get these answers or future answers as well.
Ding.
You ready?
That was a bell noise. Okay, yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
Ready.
So question number 1.
Uno.
So we did recently a video about how Meg was paralyzed, and we'll put that in the description below. And part of that, you said that you jumped off a cliff, but then you didn't elaborate any on that. So there's lots of questions about why you jumped off a cliff. So the questions come in like others on here. I'm wondering why you jumped. Were you suicidal? Someone else asked, was it like a parkour jump?
Yeah, I don't even know what parkour means.
She's not doing any parkour.
Yes, I'm not parkouring. That's not a thing. So no, I wasn't suicidal. I didn't parkour anything. I didn't mean to. It was an accident. It was a total accident. Like I was jumping. This is a really good question though. Like I should never just leave it like that. Like, yeah, and then I accidentally jumped off a cliff. So moving on. Yeah, no, I really should elaborate on that. But you know, I've been paralyzed for 18 years and so like I know the answer and so I don't know. I just forget. So I was jumping on the top of the rocks, like on the path that I was on. I was jumping from boulder to boulder to boulder and I thought I saw a boulder. And so I jumped for it, but it was an accident. I just jumped off the cliff. Like the terrain that I was in, the southern Utah terrain, you know, red rocks and red sand and red dirt and tons of red boulders in this one area. And I thought that there was a bunch of boulders there. That's what I thought. I didn't realize that I was looking at like this huge, vast, you know, terrain of mountaintops, you know, and things like I just didn't understand. It was my first time there. And I'm dumb sometimes. I am a firm believer that if you're going to be paralyzed, it's going to happen to you. Like it's, you know, I think that, you know, it's not like a willy-nilly trial that God's like, oh, okay, paralyze him. No, that's not it. Like I know a guy that was driving and like he hit a turn on a mountain road too fast and he slid on the gravel and his car like slid off the road. And he rolled down the hill in his car 17 times. And it landed upside down, like at the bottom. And like his friends are at the top and they're like, oh my gosh, you know. And he crawled out the window, stood up, and started to walk back up the hill, trips on a rock, falls down, and breaks his back. And now he's a paraplegic. So I think if it's going to happen to you, it's going to happen to you. You don't have to necessarily, you know, be kind of spacey like I am sometimes. It was a beautiful area. I mean, it still is a beautiful area, you know. Just don't jump on stuff down there when you're there. Like, it's kind of a no-brainer, but no one told me that. Like, I'd only been there for like 6 hours. Did I answer that question?
I think so.
Okay, I want to be thorough because I don't want anyone like jumping off stuff, being like, well, Meg did it. All my friends are doing it. No, that's not a thing.
Perfect. I think that answers it.
Okay,
so
good.
Accidentally jumped off when you were jumping between boulders.
Yes.
And it looked like there was another one, but there wasn't.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and then I jumped off and like the time stood still. Anyway. Then I realized what I'd done. I was like, oh my goodness. That was like the most panic I think I felt.
Okay, I think that story of your friend leads to the next question too. So,
okay, my friend, which
your
friend?
who's a paraplegic.
Oh yeah,
but
he's
you're
a
a quadriplegic. But the question is, I thought that if you could move your arms, that means you're a paraplegic. And then the other part of that question, someone else asked. So, what is the difference between the numbers? You know, like C4 and C7 paraplegic stuff.
That's a good question. Because I used to think the same thing. Before I became a quadriplegic, I thought a quadriplegic was somebody who couldn't move their arms or legs. That's what I thought. So I thought that a paraplegic was someone who could use their arms and their hands, and a quadriplegic was someone who could not use their arms or their legs. I didn't know that there was like a bunch of levels in between. And so I'm a quadriplegic. I'm a C7 quadriplegic. And what that means is I'm paralyzed from my chest down and my hands don't move. Okay. And so where you break, so I'm a spinal cord injury.
I think the quadriplegic means that all 4 limbs are affected. Yeah. So like
Quad.
On Meg, it's just her hands. All her other muscles in her arms still work, but her hands are the only part unaffected or that are affected.
Yeah. Yes. I could slap you. Paralyzed hands. Anyway, so my legs are paralyzed, my hands are paralyzed, but my arms are not paralyzed. Like my biceps and my triceps are not paralyzed. So depending on where you break in your spinal cord determines like what level you are. So if you break your neck, and your neck is the cervical bones, cervical or C for cervical, C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, C6, C7, C7, because there's only 7 bones in the neck. Question, how many bones are in a giraffe neck? If you answer in the comments, you can be a winner. I'll blow you a kiss. That's for the winner. And then if you break in your back, so that's thoracic 1, thoracic 2, thoracic 3, T1, T2, T3, T4. I think there's 12 bones in the back, like 12 thoracic bones. And then there's the lumbar, anyway. And then the sacral, like you can break anywhere on your back, and wherever you break will determine how much function that you have. So I'm a C7 quadriplegic. And so I broke, when I landed on the ground, I broke my arms and I broke my legs and I broke my neck. I broke cervical 3, 4, 5, and 6. So cervical 3, 4, 5, and 6. So all of those bones. C5 was crushed completely. I have a donor's bone. I think I said that in another one. But that's where it is. And so that's actually C5 is where the real break is. Like that's where they say my neck is like severed right there. So there's a whole thing about complete and incomplete, but if you have that question, I'll answer it. But if you don't, then that's okay if you don't know about that. So anyway, so that's where they say my spinal cord is severed at C5. And spinal cord injuries have not been studied for very long. And so nobody knows exactly why, or at least no one has told me yet. But the function drops to vertebrae. So like my break really is at C5, but I'm considered a C7 quadriplegic because I have C7 function in my arms. So here's the quad dance, Kate. This will make you smart and wise.
This will teach you how to all the function, right?
Yeah,
based on
for a quad,
levels.
Only a quadriplegic.
Right.
So like a C, and this is not like very scientific. There's variations, but for the most part, it's pretty accurate. So if you're like a C1 quadriplegic or a C2, like you can do this motion. That's what you can do. C1, C2. C3 has a little bit more like
side to side.
C4 can shrug. They've got a little bit of shoulder action. Oh, you're such a cute C4. C5 can like raise their arms a little bit. They have a little bit of like arm motion like this, I let it go floppy because they don't have like a ton of arm motion. So C5 is like that. Then C6, that's when you get the big guns. You have biceps, that's C6. And then C7, you have triceps on the back of your arms. And then C8 is synonymous with T1. So that's like when you can wiggle your fingers and stuff. And there's not 8 bones in the neck, there's only 7. Same as a giraffe neck, if you were wondering. What? And so, I don't have my finger motion. I can't do any with my fingers, but I have my biceps and my triceps. And so I'm a C7 quadriplegic. So to show you the dance now. Ready? If you're listening and watching at home, go ahead, sit up nice and tall. You could do the dance with me. So C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, C6, C7, C8. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. You have to wiggle. Yeah, that's C8. Yep. So don't paw at me. If you're pawing at me like this, that means you're a C7. So paralyzed hands. So that's the difference between a quadriplegic and a paraplegic. And there's so much in between. You can't really just say they're a para because they're using their hands, because they really could be like spina bifida. They could have a traumatic brain injury. Like, we don't know. You just can't tell. You just really can't tell. But if you do know that they are a spinal cord injury, you can tell if they're para or a quad by if they're using their hands or not. So there you go. Next question.
There we go. Question was, do you have any pets? And you heard the dog bark, which woke up the baby. So I'm gonna go grab the baby.
Yes.
And we'll answer that
You
question.
can see the baby, hear the baby. She's so cute. She's been smiling. If you had that question, there's your answer. She's starting to smile. She's 3 months old and she's starting to smile. And she has my dimple here and my dimple here, and she's so cute. So if you have another question, like who's the cutest baby in the world, answer mine.
So the last question was, do you have any pets? You heard the dog bark earlier, which woke up the baby. And so...
The answer is yes. Yes to pets.
Yes to pets.
Yes
Let's
to
hear
pets.
about our pets.
So I've got, I say I've got because I am the kind of person that if I don't have a dog, I'm actively looking for a dog to have. like we had the sweetest Western Terrier and I love him. And I love, when he was alive, I love him. And then he got hit by a car and it was so sad. And I was so sad. And some people are like, oh, I could never have a dog again. But not me. I was on the internet like that day looking for a dog. Not because I didn't love him, but because like I needed to have a dog. Like I just have to have one, I guess. I'm just like allergic to not having a dog.
And so we got Mowgli. This is our dog Mowgli, who is twice the size the internet said he was going to be.
So Mowgli, we bought him as a Jersey Terrier, which I
That's what
guess
they said he was.
is like a Rat Terrier and a Jack Russell Terrier mix. And we were like, okay, that sounds like
supposed to be 25 pounds or so. I take him to the vet.
Guess which one of us is the dog person?
I take him to the vet early. He looks at his paws. He's like, he was about 20 pounds. He's like, he's maybe halfway there. And I was like, what? Now he's like 52 pounds
He's
or
so
something.
big. We were like, oh my gosh, he's going to grow out of the dog door. But he's a big dog and he's a big lover dog. He like loves people. He's so gentle. He can jump onto the bed. Like if all of us are on the bed, he can jump on the bed and not step on anybody. Like he just like tiptoes around, even though he's like a big lug, kind of, and just, he seems clumsy, but he's not. He's really nimble. He can like straight jump into the air like 6 feet, like without a running start. He's so strong. And he's so sweet and gentle. Like he was on the floor and I watched my friend's baby crawl up to him while he was like laying on the floor, and my friend's baby took turns poking his eyes. Like she'd poke his left eye, then his right eye, then his left eye, then his right eye. And he just laid there and let her do it. Didn't, growl or get mad or anything. He's just so sweet. Unless I'm scared. And then he's like really protective. So we had this guy come over and he was really like, I didn't know who he was. I didn't know what he was talking about. And he was just really like adamant about something. He was like telling me about something. And I was getting afraid because I was like all alone. And he was like approaching me and like shouting about something. I didn't know what he was talking about. I was afraid. And Mowgli jumped in between us, like jumped in front of me and like spread his front legs all wide and got down low. He looked like a badger and he was like growling. And the guy's like, is your dog okay? And I was like, I don't know. I've never seen him do this, but you better stop approaching. And so he's just really protective if I'm scared and really sweet. And like the one time I was scared when I was alone, I was on the bed with my little baby and my 5-year-old. And I got scared because like, he looked afraid, and he didn't look afraid, like he looked like alert, like someone was there. And I later learned that my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law were like putting tables in my shed. And he, instead of like barking at him or like getting, all in their business, he just came to where I was and sat on the bed and I called my neighbor. My neighbor came over and like, I thought he was going to attack my neighbor. He's like, I'm not letting anybody on that bed. He was so sweet. And we have Charlie.
Yes, we have Charlie as well. We got to
because Mowgli ended up
Mowgli
being twice as big as we thought he was going to be. And so needing twice as much attention and twice as much energy and twice as much bigness. So we got Charlie to sort of, curb that. What are we curbing with that? I don't know, but to help with that.
They can play together. They both like to play fetch.
They love fetch.
So we'll hit the tennis ball with the racket.
Tennis ball fetch.
Charlie's really good. She'll bring the ball back and give it to me. Mowgli brings it back and then wants me to play tug of war with the ball in his mouth. So the only way to really get it from him is to
have a treat
to trade him the ball for the treat.
And he's kind of like a hey, sucker, like this is my house to, you know, he kind of like gets in Charlie's face when he gets the ball. He's like, neener, 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 I got the ball.
But the trick is give Mowgli an old ball in his mouth and then hit the ball for Charlie, and
So he
she'll
has the
play
ball.
fetch, and he just kind of runs around.
He'll just
like
like
a
run around.
doofus.
He's not a doofus. He just doesn't acquiesce to your need for the ball.
Charlie's the barker.
Yes, she barks. She's the protector, the verbal protector. She lets you know. She's the one you heard on the video. That was her barking. And she's sweet and she's pretty. Everyone comments on how pretty she is. She's a beautiful dog.
She's the right size. She's like 25 pounds.
Someone
smaller.
asked, they're like, is your dog still a puppy or is she just really cute? My brother was here the other day. He's like, I would like to take your dog home, please.
I said you got to take both. If you take one, you got to take both.
No one wants to take Mowgli, but everyone wants to take Charlie. But Mowgli, I love both of them so much. I'm a dog person. I need to have a dog.
They're good dogs.
They are good dogs. They're really good dogs. So yes, thank you so much for asking these questions. I love to talk about my sweet dogs. I love to talk about anything. I'm glad that I could maybe clear up the confusion about quads and paras, because that is, you know, and if you didn't know, most people don't. I didn't know until I became a quad. Like, they're like, you're a quad. I'm like, no, I can move my arms. You know, like it just didn't, you know, it's not common knowledge what's a quad and what's a para. And then thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to explain why I jumped off the cliff, because it was an accident. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And thanks for asking. And thanks for being interested. And thanks for being you. And I'm just so happy to do these videos. I love them. So ask any more questions you have in the comments and we'll get to them. We'll get to them in the next Q&A video that we do. And until then, remember that when you're at your life, wait.
What?
I know, I stuttered. I stuttered on my own, whatever it is
Motto.
called. So remember,
Motto. Oh,
what's the matter with you? So remember that when your life gets too hard to stand, you can keep on rolling. Say bye. Oh.
She's sleep eating.
She's totally sleep eating.